Hi guys. What's up, friends, fans, and fellow readers? It's me, Sylvia Faye, your girl. That was cringy. It's fine. Um, so I just finished my first book of the year, and it is The Librarian of the Haunted Library. It was pretty good. It was I was trying to decide whether I wanted to do this review or not because it was all over the place. So, yeah, before we get into it, though, we're going to fill up the reading journal as far as we can. I think we're only doing um, the bookshelf, the reading around the world, because the author is actually from Iowa. And I did put the series that this goes to because there's only 12 books on my series tracker, so we're doing that. And I think book Tetris, and that's it. So we're going to do that first, and then I will get into my review of the book. Okay, now that that's done, and my thing is being, fucked. Um, there was so much going on in this book. Normally, I don't have a hard time following along, but I kind of had a hard time following along. I got notes, guys. Like, notes and lines and circles, and it's... Oh boy. Okay. So, to start off, the main character's name is Kevin Austin. And he's kind of a hypnotist kid. He learned it from some ghosts. So it's one of those. It was a very funny book. Before I get into my review, I want to make clear that these are my opinions. These are my thoughts, and there are spoilers. I am going to have spoilers, so if you don't like it, at least you gotta see the reading journal put together part, for the most part, because I'm not going to print off just this and waste paper, so can't afford that. So yeah, if you don't like spoilers and you want to read this before, like without spoilers, go ahead and click off. It's fine. It is hilarious, and you will get confused a lot. So I recommend notes. Yeah. Anyway, we start off with Kevin Austin. He's an orphan, which fantastic premise. There aren't a lot of books that I know of that start off with an orphan. So yeah, he was an orphan. Passed around from place to place. You know, he aged out of the system, essentially. For those who don't know what that is, it means he turned 18 and left. Wasn't, like, being advocated for or anything like that. So, as soon as he did, he left his meth cooking foster parents' house. So, yeah. Okay. I put a lot of highlights in this. So the first chapter is... Oh my gosh, the first chapter is what pulled me in, and I love it when a book does that. So he leaves his meth head foster parents' house, and he goes to NOLA. For those who don't know, it's New Orleans. I've been kind of into the New Orleans dialects and stuff like that ever since South of Midnight came out. Love that game. Anyway. So yeah, his first night in New Orleans, he falls asleep on the side of the river because, you know, he didn't have any money or anything. So he's camping out the side of the river and someone steals his bag. Great start. And then the second night, he falls asleep alongside the river again, but he wakes up in the morgue. And he's like, what is, like, freaking out, as you do, freaking out. And the mortician just goes, aha, eyes open, that's inconvenient. And the main character's like, what do you mean inconvenient? And he says it just goes smoothly if your eyes are closed and you don't speak or move. And at that point I was like, what? And he was also like, what? So, he tells him to undo the straps. The guy said, no. He said, you can see I'm not dead. And the mortician picks up the clipboard and says, dead according to this form, sorry for your loss. I read that, exactly laughed, and and So he's trying to figure out how to get out of this. And the mortician just will not unstrap him. So at some point, the mortician leaves and he says that he left the room. And as he was leaving, he said he'd give me a minute to compose myself before he started the autopsy. Which, come on, man. Like, are you serious? So, yeah, and Kevin is a magician of sorts, but he doesn't come out and straight up say it, but he does hypnotize people. Um he learned from the spirits how to hypnotize and how to convince with his voice. So yeah, he's 18, about to get cut up by a mortician. Turns out that the mortician was hired by a Satanist society because Kevin would disrupt their master's plans. So they're trying to get rid of him. Of course, they didn't anticipate that Kevin knew how to hypnotize. So the mortician just, unstraps him. He cold cocks him, knocks him out, lets him go. He runs off, whatever. And then he travels around for quite a while with the universe telling him what to do, and that's exactly what he says in this. He says the universe tells me to go somewhere and I go there and there's someone that needs help. So yeah, he follows what the universe tells him to do and ends up where is it? Oh, the cosmos, not the universe. My bad. But anyway, the cosmos told him in his sleep that he had to go to a small town in East Texas where he would meet a clown. And he said, I woke up in a bad mood from that dream. I do not like clowns. Same. I don't like clowns either. But this was a particularly bad clown. Because the clown offers him a ride to wherever he's going. He's already got a hinky feeling about this clown. And, I'm sorry, there's things on my wall that I'm adjusting. And he said the clown wasn't supernatural, but he had bad intentions. I could feel he had bad intentions, which, believe that. So the clown, while in the car, was trying to get him to laugh, with some really bad racist and homophobic jokes that just weren't funny. And then he tried him to drink a beer, and Kevin refused. And then the clown got pissed off at him refusing everything and not laughing and literally booted him out of the vehicle. Like, just took the foot, boom, tossed him out on the side of the road, and he said it hurt when it landed. So yeah, and then he wanders through the woods. By this point, all it told me was that some years passed, so I didn't know exactly how old Kevin was. I estimated between 24 and 26. Later on, found out that he's 25, so I was right. So yeah, he ended up in a town called Eden, and he met who he described as Santa Claus. But he isn't actually Santa Claus. He's actually the mayor of Eden, and asks him how to get out of town, and the mayor says, there are no towns going out today. Specifically today. And Kevin's like, what do you mean no roads out today? And he said, well, there's dirt paths, but you can't trust them. They sometimes lead people off in different directions. And to quicksand, off cliffs, that sort of thing. The opposite of what trails are supposed to do. So, yeah, he's and then at one point, and this is where I'm like, who is that? Who the hell is that? So when he told him the name of the town was Eden, he looked up at the big tree and he expected to see a snake. And when he said that, he said it would have been the soothing, slithering voice of Carl. And the only thing I could think is, who the fuck is Carl? Because nobody in this is named Carl so far. So I'm like, who's Carl? But you have to read a little further to understand who Carl is, because it doesn't tell you, which is one of the things that agitated me, because don't show a character, or don't mention a character and then not show them, you know, within the next few pages. But anyway, he's like, sorry. But anyway, Santa Claus, we're gonna call him Santa. We'll call him Kris Kringle. Was like, had to write down that Kevin had come, where he'd come from, and, you know, basically keeping a record. And he asked Kevin, how'd you find yourself in our haunted woods? A clown pushed me out of a car, I said. What state were you in? He asked. I don't know, upset? To be fair, I would have thought, like, the state, but not mental state. So that's me for not being creative. So anyway, he tells him where he was from, and the Kris Kringle tells him that he can go to the cafe and get something to eat, and it'll be on his tab, but not to enter anyone's house until he knows which ones are the good ones. Which is a weird thing to hear from the mayor of the town. So, yeah. So he goes there, he meets Olive, who is the waitress there. And while he's there, a guy falls off a chair and he's like poisoned. And nobody moves to help him. Later on in the book, you understand why, and I don't blame them at all. But nobody moves to help him except for Kevin. And he's like calling an ambulance. They're like, there is no ambulance. So the guy just dies. The doctor and his assistant comes in. Yeah, he died. The doctor and the assistant comes in. Lucy, who is the owner of Lucy's Cafe, I should have mentioned that, calls the doc and says it's oatmeal that killed this one. And the reason I say that is because Kevin comes to find out that every librarian before has died in some way. Most of them by poisoning. One of them was ran over by a car, which is weird because there's no cars in Eden. A couple of them wandered into the forest and never returned. A few of them spontaneously combusted. none of them died pleasantly. So when the doc comes and they start to take the other librarian away, uh Chris Kringle tells Kevin, "You should be the new librarian." And Kevin is like, I don't have qualifications." And he's like, "It's fine. You can be the librarian. We're voting it in. That's just the way it's going to be." So Kevin takes off the ring and he goes to put it on, and right after he puts it on, ominous, Lord Blackstone comes in. He wanted to be the next librarian, but the way they do it is like by fate or some shit. And because Lord Blackstone wasn't there, he doesn't get to be the librarian. Which, okay, fine, whatever. Except you don't know this kid, and suddenly he's the librarian. And everybody's okay with him being the librarian. Unfortunately, librarians die so often that there's a betting pool on how long he's gonna last. So yeah, that's fun. But Lord Blackstone is rightfully pissed that he's not the new librarian. And him and Chris Kringle kind of do a stare off or whatever, and then Chris takes Kevin to the library. And he says you get like one free meal, you get grocery money, and you have to have the library open between 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. That's it. 2 hours. That's how long the library is open. However, it's not a normal library. This library, the books, if someone wants a book, they ask the librarian. The librarian goes to the second floor and calls the books to be checked out. Now, if the book doesn't want to come, it doesn't. So it's a magic library, which makes sense in a place like Eden. So yeah, and he was a little upset. Olive didn't want him to take it. Which, you know, at that point, the ring doesn't come off. It doesn't come off. He can't take it off. He's the librarian, and that's just the way it is now. And so the thing he was most upset about is that he didn't get his food, which I understand. I totally understand, because he got so much stuff. What did he get? Oh, shit. It was like eggs, bacon, ham, pancakes. You know, stuff like that. And he was upset about it, rightfully so, because, you know, French toast pancakes, oh my gosh. I would love that right now. So he had, and this is where I started being like, okay, this is a really weird book, because he had a dream that he was a cockroach and knew it would really bother his wife because she hated bugs, and that he was grossed out a little and also confused. When did I get a wife? Because that is the most prevalent thing on your mind when you turn into a cockroach, even in your dreams. And that's when I realized that this book was very off the wall. Very random. There was so much random stuff in it. To the point that I got confused, and I had to write a lot of stuff down. Keep my head straight. Speaking of heads, one of the characters is a headless woman. She walks around carrying her head. She's still alive. She's still alive. That is Lady Blackstone. she's I'll explain why she doesn't have her head in a minute. But there's also a lot of realistic stuff in this book that is heavy that people don't usually talk about. Um Sort of political, um but very realistic. Like one of in the beginning of the book, he mentioned that it was a crime to not have any money, which true, especially in this day and age. Now this book was written in 2023, so it makes sense. Um okay, back to this. He wanted to figure out who killed the librarian. And he asked the mayor, who is also the constable, mind you. And the constable said, "That's not my job." The mayor slash constable said, "That's not my job. That's the job of the librarian." Which, what? So now it is Kevin's job to figure out who killed the previous librarian. So he's going around through most of this book. The plot, he's trying to figure out who killed him, but also it's kind of one of those that it doesn't feel like the main plot of the story, if that makes sense. Um it is the plot, but it's not the biggest plot because there's so much else going on. Um so yeah, later it is confirmed that he is 25 in this. And the reason we find that out is because he gets attacked by a demon that's a ghoul. He gets attacked by a ghoul, and ghouls apparently specialize in information. They don't often specialize in assassinations, apparently. Um, so that's a thing. And when the ghoul attacks him, he fends her off, but she's still in the library. Now, the reason this is significant is because the library has some sort of protection on it to prevent creatures from getting in there and wreaking havoc. They're not allowed in there unless exclusively invited in, and even then, not like evil isn't really allowed in there. So he finds, and at one point, the there's just so much. There's like my notes are all over the place. At one point, Lady Blackstone comes to him. That's the lady without the head, that carries it around. And she went to him because her teenage daughter and the other 3 teenagers went into the forest with a fallen angel named Cousin Deadeye. His name is Cousin. He is not her cousin. His name is Cousin. Which, unique. Okay. Little weird, but okay. And when he asks her a question, she randomly says she doesn't want to talk about her sex life. Like, what does that have to do with anything, lady? So yeah, she says, "I don't really want to talk to it, but thank you. We'll talk later about it." Like, what? So he's like, "Okay, well, getting back on track, I will go into the woods, which I shouldn't do anyway, to get those kids or get those teenagers." And before she leaves, she says, "We're going to be lovers," and then leaves. And the only thing I could think is, what the fuck, you delusional bitch? Pardon my Japanese, but what? Um, so yeah, come to find out, she's the town whore. She is also Lord Blackstone's wife. And the reason she doesn't have her head is because she was cheating on him, obviously. And they made a deal that if she could go a year without cheating on him, he would put her head back on her body. Well, obviously, who knows how long this has been going on, because uh Olive Olive is like, yeah, she's been like that for a while. So I'm assuming, okay, I'm it disturbs me that even without her head, people are still like, yeah, I do that. Um, to each their own. I know she's not dead, so it's not technically necrophilia, but also, okay, that, like, to me, either she is absolutely gorgeous or she's really good, or both. And I don't think it didn't mention whether she was or not. I would assume she is. Um, it might have mentioned it. I don't know. I didn't write notes. I just thought that was interesting. So in order for him to go into the woods to rescue these teenagers, I'm just giving like minimal cliff notes at this point. Um, he has to go into the collection of curiosities to get the sword. Now, when I heard that, the only thing I could think of is the Librarian movies. If you've ever seen the Librarian movies, that's what this book felt like. It felt like I was partially reading the Librarian movies. Um, because, the librarian is supposed to protect the artifacts. And here, the librarian is in charge of the mysteries, which that's treading a little close to the Librarian movies, which fine. I don't care that much. It was just interesting. Um, so I thought the sword, it might be Excalibur, but Olive mentioned something about the Crusades, and I'm like, okay, whatever. And then it was confirmed later when he went into the woods that it was Excalibur. So, sword of Excalibur, maybe, because it was from King Arthur. And the boar that attacked him in the woods said that he could smell Arthur's sweat. So I assume Excalibur. I don't know. Also, he came across a one-eyed wicked witch, who was going to kill him. And he said, no, you're not going to kill me, because I have a sword. And she's just like, you don't have a sword, whatever. Everyone says they got a sword. And then he pulls Excalibur and she flinches, because why not? And he tells her, point me toward the teenagers. So she points him in the direction. She's like, well, it's good that you're getting them anyway. I was having a hard time resisting killing these teenagers, and then it would cause me trouble because I'd have to put that on my report to the town. So this town is also like, what is that? Gathering information, recording. That's the word. They are also recording evil incidents, and evil folk. So he goes to the cabin. He goes down to rescue the teenagers. And it turns out that this cabin belongs to the Blackstones. Specifically Lady Blackstone. Specifically for specifically, it's called her love shack. However, when he turns on the lights, there's like medieval torture devices. So she's into some pretty kinky shit. Um, his words were exactly um, experienced intensity or something like that. Um, so yeah, the teenagers had followed Cousin Deadeye into the forest because he had promised to um, take them off the mountain. Now, mind you, all four of these teenagers were born under the same circumstances on the same night, which was that four of the women in the town, Lady Blackstone, Callie's mom, Brandon's mom, and Lonnie's mom, all became pregnant. They were only pregnant for a few days and then gave birth to the kids. And then they put the inanimate voice told them to put the babies on the doorstep of the church and then adopted them like the next day, which is weird. All of it's weird. It's just all weird. It's a very weird book. It's a very weird book, but it was a good time. So yeah, Cousin Deadeye offered to get them off the thing, off the mountain, because they'd never been off the mountain. And he was asking the teenagers how to who they thought might have killed the previous librarian. And Diane Blackstone said that her dad and the librarian were like allies. And he also found out that the librarian was a powerful magician of the dark arts. So, of course, the librarian and Blackstone were allied in that sense. All these are all over the place. Also, the librarian was a man whore. I'm gonna straight up say it. He slept with everybody in the town, for the most part. He slept with all the women. Didn't matter if they were married or not. Didn't matter if they were single. He didn't care. He slept with them, and apparently he was very good, according to Sonia Wishbone, who is a fortune teller, the town gossip, and the accountant. So she covers everything. She's also the oldest living member there. So the ghoul, we'll get back to the ghoul. The ghoul had not left the library and tried to kill him for a second time. So he found out that the way to make a ghoul subservient is by suckling on her breast. I'm just here for the ride, like the rest of you. It wasn't... That particular scene was uncomfortable and confusing. Normally I don't care about... That wasn't even a spicy scene. It was weird. It was just weird. It was just a weird scene. So anyway, the ghoul is now subservient to him. And he asks her, come to find out it's not exactly a her or a he. It is a they, them. He, she, they, them. So come to find out that the ghoul wasn't sent by Carl, who we found out is the devil. Okay? Carl is the devil. Now that we're like 30 minutes into this video. Carl is the devil. Yeah. So he thought that the ghoul was sent by Carl. It was not sent by Carl. It was sent by an angel, actually. That told them in Babylonian that he was part of a prophecy and would disrupt whatever plans was going on. So he's getting attacked from both sides. Like, nobody wants him to live. And the best I could come up with is that he's independent enough that nobody can control him. He's supposed to be evil. I assume the angels think he's supposed to be evil. The Carl thinks that he's too independent for them to risk or whatever. So yeah. So he goes to talk to Sonia Wishbone. And she is talking about the librarian. She was also late getting up to greet him at the door because she was praying in the laundry room to the god of lost socks. Who she prays to because she just loses one sock to him and she finds him fascinating. So she okay. So there's that. He did find out, because Callie mentioned on their walk back that her mother told her that her father was an angel. Her mother didn't say whether he was a good angel or a fallen angel. But he did look through the books and he did find out that Gabriel had visited Eden quite a few times. There weren't any dates though. So he doesn't know whether or not she is Gabriel's daughter. So yeah, he told her, she went through some books. Didn't find anything, obviously. And her mom won't tell her anything because she says it's for her own protection, which I personally think is bullshit. You can't protect anybody from anything if they don't know about the danger. So yeah. Then he was going through some records to try and figure out who killed the librarian, because at this point, he now knows that almost every single woman in Eden has slept with the librarian. Which means jilted lovers, jealous husbands, jealous exes, or even the women themselves. So except for the 4 teenagers, they're clear. They're in the clear. That's 4 out of like 200 people. Maybe 150. Either way. So he's going through to see if the librarian had anything in his records or whatever that would hint at someone who could possibly do this to him. And he noticed that the librarian had checked out 42 books on the black arts, but didn't check them back in. So he went looking for them, and they didn't come calling. And then he found a loose floorboard in the apartment, which is in the basement of the library. Nice apartment, apparently. And he found a box. And in that box, which he could open with the ring, was receipts for Vegas. Like casino receipts, hotel receipts, restaurant receipts. And he would visit Vegas several times a month. Like, they were gambling receipts and stuff. So he went to talk to Olive about this, because when the original librarian died, she was like, no one really cares, because obviously he was a piece of shit. And they talked a little bit. They sort of started a relationship, kinda, but he was on the fence on whether believing she poisoned the previous librarian or not. And because of that distrust, she basically told him to fuck off, which fair on both sides. Fair on both sides, in my opinion. Because he has reason to believe that she poisoned the librarian, and she doesn't like that he doesn't trust her. Which, okay, fair. That means you guys aren't compatible. So, he went to the cemetery to think. And that's when he noticed 3 graves that were open. And when he looked at it, Lord Blackstone was there, because of course he is, because he's a creepy fuck. And he mentioned that when he met a necromancer before, which was a coyote, of all things, that the necromancer said all necromancers are clean, organized, and detail-oriented because we have to be. So the way the graves were dug up, it was very disorganized, very dirt flying everywhere, all just poor. And he said straight up, an amateur did this. And so he told Lord Blackstone that he wanted to see his tower randomly. So they went to the tower. He expected Lord Blackstone to throw him off the roof, which, Lord Blackstone admitted that he wanted to do that. And he looked through the telescope at the top, which required a quarter to see through. I don't understand that part, because it belongs to Lord Blackstone, but it requires a quarter to see through. So, like, what? Anyway. He does go, before he and Olive kind of break it off, he does go to Olive's house to have dinner. And that's when he meets her father, who is dead, but not really. In that meaning that her father is a zombie. So we do come to find out that a voodoo priestess had come to town, what was it? They said, like, a couple years previously, and turned a lot of the dead people into zombies for her army. But then the previous librarian, one of the previous librarians killed her. So that stopped that, and Olive's father was the final zombie that kind of survived that. So he goes about his business. He finds out that Sonia Wishbone had been killed. She had been killed by poison, which the mayor / constable thought he was bad luck because of it, because she died right after seeing him. So I don't know how he came to the conclusion of who did what. But he did. And it was a very quick wrap up. I sort of knew who did some poisoning, but not really. It was one of those where you kind of question your own thought process. So spoiler alert, if you made it this far and you don't want to know the ending, skip to the end of this video or skip to a different part or a different video or whatever. But Lady Blackstone poisoned Sonia because Sonia was blackmailing her to get money for herself because Sonia was giving money to the old librarian because he had gambling debts. And she was blackmailing Lady Blackstone to keep her secret of her sleeping around, which I'm sure Lord Blackstone already knew. She wasn't going to get her head put back on her body anyway, because she's a harlot. So we have Olive and Kevin going up to the tower to face Lady Blackstone. And it's kind of a Harry Potter style fight where they're like flinging wands and magic and woo, all of that. But not really. So Lady Blackstone does get apprehended because the way they're supposed to the way they are supposed to punish murderers is by hanging. But you can't do that when a lady doesn't have her head. So yeah, she ends up escaping, and some people thought everyone was pretty sure Lord Blackstone did not help her escape because even though that's his wife, he hates her, obviously. And I hate her a little bit too. So then he later had an announcement made for all or most of the women who were involved with the previous librarian to meet up at the library so he can talk to them. And when he does, he finds out that Olive did poison Barry, which I thought all along, obviously. But they all had some sort of hand in it. And the reason they did is because Barry, the previous librarian, used a seduction spell on these women to get them to sleep with him, and then he would either steal from them or blackmail them into giving him money to continue his gambling and bullshit. So I don't feel bad for him dying. I feel bad for the women who can't tell their husbands about it because the librarian had such a reputation with sleeping with everyone, but no one knew he was using a seduction spell except the women who were victimized by him. So, even though it's a magical place, the husbands probably wouldn't have believed the wives, which is sad, and upsetting. So, yeah, that's how that ended. Kevin and Olive are not together. She doesn't forgive him. She straight up said, "I don't forgive you." But he's still trying. And the book ended straight up with Kevin going to Lord Blackstone's tower and wanting to talk to him. Except he kept his foot in the door and called for those 42 books. And what had happened was the old librarian had sold Lord Blackstone those books to cover the debt, and then went around doing the seduction crap with the women. And it ended with him getting those books back and Lord Blackstone just screaming profanities at him like, "I bought those fair and square," and blah, blah, blah. So that's how the book ended. It was, there's an old ladies wrestling club. I forgot about that. When he went to talk to the mayor about something. I can't even remember. Oh. No, I can't even remember what it was. There was an old ladies wrestling club meeting in the square. As there's a lot that happened in this book. Like, so much. I didn't even read like all of my notes. I just put a lot. There was a lot. There was so much. There was a lot. But it was a fun time. It was a good ride. It's one of those, I would call this a garbage book. It's just, it's a garbage book. It's a book that you read that you shouldn't think too hard about. For the love of God, don't think too hard about it. And when you read it, my advice is to read Kevin's parts in the most deadpan voice you can think of. It is so much funnier when it's like that. So I did give it 4 stars. Mostly because I'm using the compile system. I'll probably use a different system next year. But it came out to an 8.14, which is 4 stars on my own thing. So yeah, that's one book down. It was a wild ride, guys. It was a wild ride. It was fun. It was entertaining. I didn't put a lot in my I never put a lot in my online reviews because I don't want to spoil it for anyone. But if you're on this video, you probably don't care about spoilers. So yeah. My online review though, it does have my highlights and notes. I didn't put a lot of notes, I just highlighted a lot of stuff because I have a hard time annotating on my Kindle. Well, this isn't a Kindle, it's just a tablet. But I have a hard time annotating on the Kindle app. So I just highlight stuff that's interesting. So if you want to see that, that is on my Goodreads. I will leave a link for the yeah. I'll leave a link in the description below. This is free on Kindle Unlimited if you have it. If you don't, you can get the first 4 books of this series because there's 12 books total. You can get the first 4 on Kindle for $9.99, I believe. That's what it was when I checked. Anyway, I'm doing this recording at like 2 in the morning, so I'm gonna go to bed. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening to me rant. Like I said, it was it was a wild ride, guys. I do recommend this book. Read it for yourselves. It's very quick. Like 1 day read. Not even that. The reason it took me like 12 is because I was busy doing other things and putting my reading journal together and all that. So anyway, thanks for watching. Thanks for being here. I really appreciate all of you, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.
You ain't never gonna get me to be tame. I go insane, you can't detain this beat. Yo, when I came to stay, cause girl, I came to play. Everybody on the top got the same sound. Everything I'm about to drop, make a name now. Yeah, y'all don't really know, y'all don't really know. Y'all don't really know, y'all don't really know. Yeah, I ain't never gonna be the same now. I'ma tear up this whole fucking game now. Yeah, y'all don't really know, y'all don't really know. Y'all don't really know, y'all don't really know.